Welcome to As Above.
So below,
I am Kisha Lee, the Psychic Yogi.
and I am Cidnee Rich, and this is the new moon in Gemini. As we know, new moons occur when they conjunct or they're in the same degree or a couple degrees away from the sun. The sun is in Gemini, and so we have ourselves a beautiful new moon. Although we cannot see new moons, they are super powerful, as we know that the moon governs our divine feminine energy as well as our just our rhythm, our cycle, how what we're doing here, how we're doing here. And so we may not be able to see it in the sky, but we can definitely feel those vibes. I can tell that I typically am tired, more tired on new moons, which is what I've realized for me. And I've also realized I have weirder dreams on the new moon. So that's just what's come up for me recently. Like, huh. But the moon, it's powerful. It's there. It's governing a lot of our energy, especially us women. And it's really awesome to know how to kind of work with that energy. And Gemini is perfect energy to kind of get into. This new moon is like the perfect new moon. It is the last new moon of spring and before we get into summer, and it's also Gemini energy, so it's mutable. So we're in this transition, we're in this flexible energy, this adaptable energy where we're really able to set intentions. The energy needs to support what we're doing. And I feel like a new moon in Gemini is perfect for that because we want to set an intention typically for the future. So we need change or we need the ability to be flexible. And that Gemini energy allows us to start to really think, use our brain, right? It's Mercury ruled to think about what we want or what we have now and what we want to grow from that, right? I think that's another interesting thing. It's like Gemini is very curious and it wants to kind of get more information and get to know this side of things and that side of things, as well as ourselves, get to know this side of ourselves and that side of ourselves. So when we're in that energy, we're able to realize, you know what? I want to go in this direction and I want to go in this direction. And how can those two things come together and to create and manifest what it is that we want, the reality that we're wanting? So it's very much so like a gumbo just popped in my head. Like you can have this in here, that in there. You don't have to choose, which is interesting that I said that because Gemini is represented by the lovers in tarot, and it's originally the choice card. So when we talk about choices, it can feel like definitive, like you got to make a choice. And I find it pretty fitting that Gemini, being the lovers, is the choice energy, with it being mutable, with it being flexible. You don't have to just choose one thing. You don't have to be one person. You don't have to think one way. You have the ability to shift that. You can shift your thoughts throughout the day, they don't have to stay the same. And so I think it allows us to choose who we want to be in this moment, where we are, where we're wanting to go in this chapter, in this cycle. And it takes the pressure off of feeling like, oh my God, every choice I make is going to lead me down this path. And Gemini says, hey, you can make a different choice right now and you can go on another path. Or you can choose to stay on the path that you're on if it still resonates with your truth. So it kind of goes to that energy too with Mercury. Mercury is very mental, right? And so it's like our thoughts are always shifting and changing. So, but our beliefs, you know what I mean, are a little bit more concrete. And sometimes those work together and sometimes they kind of they butt heads, right? They're not, oh, well, this is my belief, but I'm thinking this, or this was my belief, but now I'm being introduced new information, Gemini, right? There's new information. Maybe I can expand what I thought I knew. maybe I can look at it from another person's perspective or my other perspective, as we are dual people. We're not just, you know, 2D people. We are multidimensional. And so Gemini energy really supports that ability to be all of who we are, even if that difference of self comes into conflict with each other. It still gives us space to recognize it, appreciate it, and give it space. And I think it's cool too, because in my personal life, I've been speaking with somebody or connecting with someone. Connection is a very big Gemini energy, who's very different, has a different belief system than me. But as we've been connecting, there's been an exchange of information. There's been an exchange of ideas. There's just been an exchange of understanding. And with that exchange, which is very Gemini, when you're able to kind of have this flow of information, you're able to get a perspective that you may not have had before. So it makes you open. It makes you flexible to how you're thinking. And that's why I think Gemini energy is so cool and this new moon is so cool, because something that we think is so fixed, like our beliefs, aren't. When we're presented with new information, when we're presented with new experiences, when we're presented with new people, when we get to go and experience a different culture or a different community, which is also very Gemini, as it rules the third house, which is the house of community. It's the house of your like neighborhood, literally your siblings. We all know our siblings are different than how we are, if we have them, right? We're not all the same, even if we came from the same people. So it's understanding that like you can learn and from everyone around you, and you can take that information and incorporate it into who you are, and say like, hey, this is actually how I see or view this thing, or this is actually how I want to live, or this is actually the path that I want to go on, or this is actually what I want to pursue, or this is actually what makes me feel fulfilled and harmonious. I've been missing this piece and now I feel more balanced. You know, this new moon is on 6-6, which is hella cool. So not only is it 6-6, but the tarot card, the Lovers, is the 6th major arcana. So 666, which in pop culture is like the devil's number, which of course, as we've talked about multiple times in this space, these things that are very advantageous and supportive to our growth gets demonized and looked at as something bad. So of course 666 has been demonized, literally, but in reality it's about balance. It's about the understanding that you need this and that. And of course, the patriarch would say, no, 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 you don't need this and that. You just need this. You just need our voice. You just need the divine masculine energy. And it's like, no, you need the divine feminine energy too, in order to actually come to harmony. So deeming that number, bad, it's saying that like, no, it's not equal here. It's me. I have all the energy. You don't contribute to this at all. But in reality, all the universe is always trying to do is balance itself. Balance is the key to everything. And that's why 6 as a number is such a important number to work with, because when we feel out of balance, there goes okay, yes, celebrate that. When we feel out of balance, we feel crazy, we feel not good, we feel lost, we feel sad, we feel depressed, we feel angry, we feel whatever the case may be. Something's missing, something's wrong, something's tilted, right? And so Gemini energy brings us into balance with ourself, right? The Lovers, yes, it can talk about relationships with other people, but it's more importantly about the relationship that we have with ourself, and making sure that we are acknowledging, recognizing, respecting, and supporting all aspects of who we are. And we're not denying that just to fit in or just to appease people. We're realizing, like, no, I can be that. I can ask for this. I want this. I'm this person and I'm this person. It's the duality that we talk about. And I know Kisha speaks about it a lot with the fourth dimension. It's that energy. It's saying that, like, we need this and that in order to have balance. And we can't skip over this and that, because that's where the balance is created. And then you can, move on to the fifth dimension and have more of this, like, esoteric kind of perspective, but you can't really use that if you don't have something to anchor it to. And what you anchor it to is that 4D balanced space where you know how the energy can actually move in a way that feels helpful. It's like I can use this instead of like just being this like weird like thought, right? So I think Gemini is cool. And like I said before, I think I said this for Astro Reiki, I really learned to appreciate Gemini energy with learning more about astrology because of the, going deeper. And when people talk about Geminis or whatever, like all that stereotypical shit, it's like, no, they're learning. They're constantly learning, which we all should be. And what happens a lot of times, which going back to 6 being a number of balance and harmony, our world is out of balance, is disharmonious because no one is learning from of each other. We've all chosen ourself instead of saying, hey, what do you think about this? Oh, that's interesting. You think that, or that's your perspective. I can see that. So I can see where you're coming from. If we as a collective were more aware of other people's, not even aware, we're aware, more accepting, more understanding, more flexible with our beliefs, with our mind, then we could get somewhere. Finally, we could get somewhere. We could say, oh, you know what? We are on a planet with 8 billion plus people. We're all going to be thinking differently. So that's okay. We can hold space for that. And then we can, work from there instead of trying to force people to choose this or that. That is the duality of Gemini, to have everybody being able to work in a community with however they see things and however they choose to live their lives. And I think a big issue that I've been personally having, and then I'll go into the tarot, is that that's missing so blatantly, even in our small communities, that, oh, well, I'm in this space. I'm in this industry. I do this. And it's like, well, whoop-de-fucking do. Glad you're doing that. But this person over here is doing this. They care about this. This is important to them. And what we've lost as a society, and definitely as a small community, is the understanding and the acceptance of differences, and the fact that somebody's life could be completely different from yours, but just as relevant energetically to the whole. And that's the problem. And social media contributes to that problem all the time, because what it's doing, what the algorithm is doing, is highlighting a certain belief or lifestyle or whatever. And it's saying that this isn't important. They're doing whatever. They're trying to heal people's soul. That doesn't matter. What about this fun shit where, brands are giving money to something? Like, let's be real. But that's where all the attention goes. And this over here, for an example, who cares? That's But guess what that's doing? It's creating an imbalance in our society because we're not honoring the duality of humans. Yeah, some humans want to go and do that, but some humans want to go and do this. And both of them are needed to keep the harmony of the planet, you know? So my new moon intention for the collective, for the community, is for us all to see each other's value and to exchange information and accept each other's information and see the value of that information and how we can integrate it into our lives and therefore feel more balanced, therefore feel more centered, therefore feel like, you know what, there's enough for everybody, because there fucking is. So, collective message for collective message, community message, third house message for this new moon in Gemini. Huh, interesting. So the Four of Cups, this has to do with emotional boredom or emotional dissatisfaction. And the dissatisfaction that we may be feeling in certain aspects of our lives is coming from, you guessed it, an imbalance. I have two twos. Twos also talk about balance. I have the Two of Pentacles reverse and I have the Two of Cups reverse. So what's happening with this new moon, or what we can use for this, the energy of this new moon to do, is to say, where are we giving our power away in a way that makes us feel overwhelmed, that makes us feel disconnected? How can we regain our connections? How can we regain our satisfaction with our lives? By maybe shifting how we're thinking or choosing to include all of who we are instead of denying an aspect of ourselves. The Two of Pentacles talks about feeling overwhelmed when it's reverse. So with this new moon crossed by the Seven of Wands, it's saying stop being, for the collective, to stop being so defensive. Stop being so, it's gotta be like this. And I'm like talking to myself when I'm saying that too, because I think I get angry about the lack of duality in our society. And then I kind of have a tendency to go over here with it because I'm like, everyone's a fucking idiot. But it's like, Cidnee, it's okay if they're idiots. Okay. We need them too. So it's like bringing that into balance, letting go of some of your defenses. And then also with the Two of Cups, choosing to align yourself with energies that do reciprocate, that do mirror, that do kind of fit your life, that click in. And so when you have dissatisfaction somewhere, stop maybe focusing on that because you're so trying to get that energy to get a clue. And it's more like, how about you focus on the energies that are harmonious, that are flexible, and are willing to learn and be open. And then that's when we can start to see the good fortune, the shift, because I say that because the Wheel of Fortune's underneath that Jupiter energy. That's when we can start to see the expansion and the growth, when we stop being so defensive on what isn't what we want or what we like or out of balance, and trying to so hard to make that balance and go back to places that are already simpatico, right? That's where we can work with. And then from there, we can start to see shifts. And then maybe these other places get in balance, but we're not waiting. We're not being stubborn and saying like, I can't look away from this. It's like, go look over here, and then maybe you'll start to see things start to change and move, and the growth and the shifts. So yeah.
I like that. I like the number 6 also, because that's my life path number. But for some reason, as long as I can remember, that's always been my favorite number for some reason. And then I found out that my life path number was a 6. And through what we talk about here, I've learned that that's also about balance. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is cool. And so with that balance energy, to me, I know if you see 666 in like angel numbers, it's about balancing out the spiritual and material realm. And so sometimes we may put that in the mindset of it being like, oh, okay, these like law of attraction type concepts and manifestation, things like that. But if you actually bridge two things that have been kind of at odds or in duality for a long time, spirituality and science, and bridge that space, bring that space together cohesively, that says we are spiritual beings having a human experience, that is also that balance of the spiritual and the material or physical realm. And I say that because as an instructor of anatomy and physiology, I don't know why my voice got so high pitched right in there, but go through puberty, y'all. Which is funny because puberty would be about Gemini energy in the astrological calendar. But when you relate it to life cycles, but it's interesting because when we look at that thought or that belief or that saying of we are spiritual beings having a human experience, it's also where humans having a very spiritual experience as well, right? And so even though it may seem like we've ascended from up here, we remember that we're up here and we're just down here on earth to, for a good time, not a long time. And sometimes the good time ain't really all the good times that we would like to have. But we also have to remember that our experience down here is being recorded up there. We call it our Akashic records, right? It's an opportunity. If you do astral traveling and work like that spiritually, then that's an opportunity for you to go and to learn, right? Because it's a book. So it's about learning, it's about communicating, it's about refining processes, but also understanding basically how to be a human also. Right. The other part that I find very interesting with the anatomy and physiology aspect, or through that lens of duality and how things can still come into wholeness and balance, is if you think about it, or if you didn't know, the human body reflects itself in a lot of different ways. So you have two hemispheres of the brain, right? You have two sides of your actual cranium. You have two brows, two eyes, two ears, right? You see where I'm going with this? Two nostrils. There's two muscles here, like on both sides of the body a lot of times. You have two arms, two hands, feet, legs, and even on a very fundamental level, your jaw is reflected in through the body, through the hips. You have two pelvic bones. Okay. Even like if you really want to be real nerdy, your arm is very similar to your legs, your feet, and your toes, because your humerus here is similar to your thigh. Your forearm has two bones in it, same as your lower leg. Okay, you have an ankle, you have wrists, you have fingers, you have toes. So even in the body, it's reflected like that. And if you really go deeper, even on a cellular level, a cell has like a membrane, your skin, it has a nucleus, your brain, it has a detoxification system, that's your lymphatic system. Like it's got plasma, that's your blood. So it's like even down to a very cellular level, your spiritual essence is being reflected in this life form all the way down to a cell. Okay, the smallest unit of life form. And so I think that's kind of cool when we look at things through that lens of not just duality. To me, the word that came up as far as reframing it, right, switching our mindset, would be from duality to dynamic. Okay, maybe duality isn't a bad thing when you realize it allows you to be very dynamic in how you move. You can go up, you can go down. You can go left, you can go right. You can go outside of yourself. You can also go within yourself, right? And so I think this is a good opportunity to really just be curious. And curiosity is something that we attach to youthfulness, that time period in our life cycles where we may be going through puberty, obviously, because Cancer would be more of like the teenagers of the zodiac, like the middle school age. So to me, Gemini would be like from preschool to fifth grade. Okay. And what happens? You're very curious at that age. You're asking a lot of questions, right? You ever been around a 6-year-old? They ask you questions all damn day. Why is this? Why is that? They're very curious, but they're doing a lot of learning, right? And during that time, they also need to make sure they get a lot of sleep. So if you have been tired, like Cidnee said, especially during a new moon, it's because with all this mercurial energy, all this brain energy, this brain power you're using, it's rebooting your system in a way. And how that works is the more you're learning and taking in, the more your neurological system is actually trying to make connections with this new information. And therefore, it also has to either store old information or get rid of it. Okay. And so therefore there's like this renewal or regeneration that happens. You also see that in your skin. Your skin renews, your hair renews, you go to sleep so that you can renew. Your freaking liver regenerates, you know what I'm saying? You are breathing, which you have inhales, exhales, oxygen, carbon dioxide, you're exhaling. So there's a regeneration that comes also with that. There's that process of being born, that process of being dead one day. So speaking of death, but yeah, so it's one of those things where the more you use your brain, that's why they tell you to keep learning throughout your life so you can keep your mind fresh, keep things youthful, and have that sense of curiosity, that childlike awe and wonder. And if you ever notice, people who continuously stay the lifelong student throughout their life, they tend to be happier, right? They do things to have fun and more pleasure in their lives. They stay curious. And when it comes down to reframing mindsets, I feel like if you have that mindset of curiosity kills the cat, maybe reframe that in a way, because one, cats are related to they correspond to the divine feminine energy. So I don't know, this little patriarchy stuff putting that. But if curiosity killed the cat, well, at least she had 9 lives. She had nine different times to have some fun and explore and do things. Okay. But also at the same time, curiosity, when you shift and turn things around and look at it from a positive perspective, curiosity amplifies your thoughts. Okay. Why? Because when you become curious about something, you open your mind up to be more imaginative, to be more creative, to not be in such a fixed and stuck mindset that causes you to eventually lose, hope and joy and optimism for life, right? You tend to have creative blocks. You can't produce the things that you want to. You probably become miserly and more quiet and don't want to really express yourself or share who you really are because you don't know, because you don't talk, you don't say shit, you don't connect to people. All right. And if you don't connect to other people, one of the biggest challenges that we face in humanity is isolation. As connected as we are very isolated at the same time. And therefore, we get stuck in this loop of externalizing connections because we have things like social media. We try to connect to this, we try to connect to that, we connecting to this, that, and the other. And sometimes we end up losing ourselves in this connection, right? Trying to find something to connect to, we lose our autonomy. But if, like Cidnee said, if you take these opportunities to really step back and see things, the duality of what's being reflected to you, then hopefully or possibly you can use that opportunity of reflection to really come back to yourself, right? To basically, instead of reflecting what you see, you end up being that which is reflected. Okay. And you also learn about yourself in those different connections. And also, when you start to connect with others, you not only can build a sense of community, which is what Gemini energy is also about. The third house is about community, but also about expansion. And through that, you can grow, right? Because when you're growing in your network, you definitely have to communicate more and so forth. And so as you're growing, it's not one of those things where it's all just me. Okay, it's the collective energy as well. And so to break down the tarot reading, when you said 4 cups, 2 of Pentacles, 2 of Cups, both in reverse, um, and the 7 of Wands, Wheel of Fortune, it was, to me, I got like between the Pentacle and the Cups energy, like earth and water, it to me gave like that space of things being muddy, right? Earth and water come together and it can be muddy, especially when you have more water than earth. So you got 4 cups, 2 cups reverse, and Pentacles. So there's more water than there's earth. So that imbalance causes what? Flash floods and things like that, right? Where things get swept away, but also when that fire energy comes out, it helps things to turn, because fire is going to eventually dry up that water, help things to evaporate. And now, based on the balance in the soil level, the moisture there, it can help things to really grow, right? And flourish, and things become renewed. There's new growth, there's rebirth in that. And I think that's interesting, because even with the muddy example, they say no mud, no lotus, right? But what I realized, we think of no mud, no lotus. We never really think about mud as different elements coming together, 2 different elements coming together. And we think of the lotus, which is just this tall stalk, and then it gets to the top, and it opens up, it blooms, it blossoms, right? That's like enlightenment. But the lotus bloom itself is not just one petal, right? It had earth, it had water to make this mud. This, like, those 2 came together to make mud. You have roots. There's multiple, different, I don't know what they're called, but roots. you have multiple little pieces that go down deeper into the earth. And yes, you have one stalk that rises up, but when it blossoms, it's multiple petals that all came together to make this beautiful collective flower, right? This, to make this bloom really in a way that others can actually appreciate. So I'm going to leave it at that. That is your enlightenment. All right. As far as spirituality, I started off talking about anatomy, physiology, the physical, and then we took it up to the spiritual, and we brought it back down as well. So yes, you are a dynamic being. So let's honor our dynamism. Is that the word? Okay. So nothing Korean comes out, and I don't know if I'm speaking broken English or I just don't know what the hell I'm saying.
Hilarious. No, I love that. I think that's so cool. I love that. I love that that's your bag that you get in. I think it's really cool. I also just I'll say this later, but there's something I want to talk about spirituality and science later. But you guys, thank you so much for connecting with us in this community, and listening on the podcast or watching on YouTube. It is very appreciated. Like I say, always share with your homies, comment, whatever you need to do. So hopefully we can just get this little out into the ether more and more and more. Our community, our vibes, our thoughts, our opinions, our perspectives. So we're changing our minds and being open and flexible. Subscribe, all that stuff. We will be back for I guess, oh gosh, we're going into Cancer season. Sheesh.
Already?
Yeah, I think so. We already had our full moon in Sag. We're having our new moon now, and then we'll be going into Cancer season.
Not like I said. I was like, oh. My mood completely switched to talk about duality, and then moody, watery, like Cancer vibes. I was like, oh.
But it's moving us somewhere, right? It's cardinal at the end of the day. It's still taking us places that we need to be. So that is exciting, and it creates stability because it's the 4th house. So there's some stability that's coming in that maybe we're also hoping for too, as we're growing in our minds about what it is that we're wanting and the path that we're on. So
I just thought about it. That makes sense, the 4th house with Cancer, because that would be emotional stability, which would be emotional fulfillment.
Which
Okay.
comes from opening our mind up and realizing, hey, maybe this is what we actually want, need, desire to bring us the harmony that we're looking for. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Bring it full circle. All right. All right.
And join the Patreon for the meditation that we're about to get into. If not, you snooze, you lose. See you guys later.